Just excited for another opportunity to step on the floor, against a tough opponent. Reminding our players, Indiana's a different team than they were the first three times that we played them earlier in the season.
The fans of the WNBA who have been around for a while know exactly the type of player that she is.
I like that she's come in and just blended perfectly. She hasn't tried to be anything other than what she is, and that's exactly what we need.
You know what's got WNBA coaches sweating? Caitlin Clark's playoff debut. Connecticut Sun's Stephanie White is losing sleep over facing the Fever right before the playoffs. Why? Because Clark's not just good, she's changing the game. But here's the real kicker. The Fever went from bottom of the barrel to playoff contenders in one season. How did they do it? And why is White so worried? Let's talk about the stakes here. The Suns' playoff hopes are on the line against a Fever team that's on fire. Can White and her squad stop Clark's magic, or will their season go up in flames? That's the million-dollar question. Now check this out. Clark's put up 769 points this season. That's insane. And she's dishing out 8.2 assists per game. You know what that means? She's not just scoring. She's making everyone around her better. No wonder White's worried. The Fever went from underdogs to playoff threat. And it's all because of this rookie phenom. The Sun better watch out, because Clark's coming for them, and she's bringing the whole Fever team with her. Hold up though, Clark's not doing this alone. The Fever went from bottom feeders to playoff contenders faster than you can say rookie sensation.
This is who she is. I mean, she's one of the most elite competitors I've ever been around. And the only other competitor that I can compare her to is Tamika Catchings.
They make quicker reads and play with a lot more rhythm, better timing, and multiple weapons on the floor. I mean, and it's a team that's playing with a lot of confidence.
The way that she approaches the game, her professionalism. It was big. It was exciting. It was one of the most exciting things for me that I wanted to happen tonight.
What's the secret sauce behind this team's incredible turnaround? Remember when the Indiana Fever were the joke of the WNBA? At the start of the season, they were stumbling through games like a newborn giraffe. A 1-8 record? That's not just bad, that's embarrassing. Fans were covering their eyes, players were hanging their heads, and coaches were probably updating their resumes. But then something crazy happened. The Fever flipped the script so hard it gave the whole league whiplash. They went from zero to hero, winning 11 of their last 17 games. That's not just good, that's playoff caliber basketball. How did they do it? What changed? Here's where it gets juicy. Stephanie White, the Suns coach, spilled the tea on what makes this Fever team so dangerous now. She said, everybody on the floor understands how, when, and where Caitlin Clark can get them the ball. And so they get there. That's not just teamwork. That's mind-reading level chemistry. But let's talk about the unsung heroes for a second. Clark's got 769 points this season. Sure, but you know who's right on her heels? Kelsey Mitchell with 767 points. That's not a sidekick, that's a co-star. And when you've got two players dropping buckets like that, defenses don't know where to look. And don't even get me started on Aaliyah Boston. This rookie's putting up 13.9 points and 9.2 rebounds per game. That's not just good for a first-year player, that's good for anyone in the league. She's cleaning up the boards and giving Clark and Mitchell more chances to work their magic. White's not just worried about Clark, she's looking at a whole team that's figured out how to win. She talked about their improved chemistry, better timing, and quicker reads on the court. It's like the Fever went from playing checkers to chess, while everyone else was still setting up the board. The Fever's role players aren't just filling space anymore. They're making crucial plays, hitting big shots, and stepping up when it matters most. It's not just the Clark and Mitchell show anymore. It's a full-on Fever frenzy, and every player's got a part to play. Think about it. At the start of the season, teams were probably circling the Fever on their calendars as an easy win. Now, they're circling those games in red and adding a bunch of exclamation points. The Fever have gone from being the hunted to the hunters, and they're out for blood. The Fever's rise has sent shockwaves through the league, and nobody's feeling the tremors more than Stephanie White. Why is the Suns coach so worried about facing a team they've beaten 3 times this season? It's like she's watching a horror movie where the monster keeps getting stronger with every defeat. White's not just concerned, she's downright terrified. You can hear it in her voice when she talks about the Fever. She's seeing something that's making her lose sleep. And it's not just Caitlin Clark's highlight reel. Here's the thing. White knows this Fever team isn't the same one they beat earlier in the season. She's watching a team that's growing up fast, like a kid hitting a growth spurt overnight. In her own words, anytime you're a young team that's really growing into yourself, it's there now. That's coach speak for, oh crap, they figured it out. But what's really got White sweating is how fearless this Fever team has become. She's looking at a squad that doesn't back down from anyone. White said it herself. They don't fear anyone. They just go out and they play and enjoy the game. That's a tough matchup. Imagine trying to game plan against a team that plays like they have nothing to lose. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Now, you might be thinking, but the Sun are 3-1 against the Fever this season. What's the big deal? Well, those wins might as well be ancient history. The Fever team stepping onto the court now is like a completely different beast. They've got chemistry, timing, and a swagger that wasn't there before. It's like they went from playing checkers to chess while everyone else was still setting up the board. White's got a big problem on her hands. She knows you can't just try to outscore this Fever team. In her own words, you can't outscore that team. You've got to be able to lock down defensively. But how do you lock down a team that's firing on all cylinders? It's like trying to plug a leak when the whole dam is about to burst. The pressure on White is intense. She's not just planning for a game. She's trying to stop what she calls a basketball revolution, led by Clark. That's not hyperbole, folks. White sees something in this Fever team that's changing the game, and she's got to figure out how to counter it before her Sun get burned. For White and the Sun, this isn't just another game. It's a test of everything they've worked for all season. Can they adapt to this new Fever team? Can they find a way to slow down Clark and company? Or will they become just another victim of the Fever's late season surge? As the Sun gear up for this playoff showdown, they're facing a problem that stumped every team so far, the Caitlin Clark effect. But here's the thing, Clark isn't just a scoring machine. She's like a basketball Swiss Army knife, and that's what's giving Stephanie White nightmares.
And then we got to come out with a high level of discipline defensively, high activity level on the defensive end of the floor, and continue to work on playing with the pace that we want offensively. Kelsey Mitchell's obviously playing at another level now, and so it gives you another player on the floor that you have to be mindful of on and off ball and isolation. I think anytime you're a young team that's really growing into yourself, the understanding of one another, the timing, the pace, the connectedness, just wasn't quite there early. It's there now.
Let's talk about Clark's game for a second. This rookie's putting up numbers that make veteran players look like they're still in high school. 769 points this season. That's not just good, that's video game stat. But wait, there's more. She's dishing out 8.2 assists per game too. You know what that means? She's not just scoring, she's making everyone around her better. Imagine trying to defend against that. You think you've got her locked down, and bam, she hits a teammate with a no-look pass for an easy bucket. You overplay the pass, and suddenly, she's draining threes in your face. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Now, you might be thinking, just double team her and call it a day. But here's where it gets tricky. White knows that's not gonna cut it. She said, you can't outscore that team. You've got to be able to lock down defensively. But how do you lock down a player who can hurt you in so many ways? White's got a plan though. She's talking about very defensive look. What does that mean? Think about it like this. If you always show Clark the same defense, she's gonna figure it out faster than you can say Rookie of the Year. So you've gotta mix it up. Maybe you press her one possession, then drop back the next. Maybe you switch defenders on her, trying to keep her guessing. But here's the real kicker, and this is what's keeping White up at night. It's not just about stopping Clark. White pointed out that the Fever's role players have stepped up big time. They're not just standing around watching Clark do her thing. They're cutting, they're spotting up, they're making plays. So now you've got a whole team that's figured out how to play off Clark's skills. White said it herself. Everybody on the floor understands how, when, and where Caitlin Clark can get them the ball. And so they get there. That's not just good teamwork. That's like they've got a mind meld going on out there. You know what's even crazier? The Fever have multiple scoring threats now. It's not the Caitlin Clark show anymore. It's a full-on Fever frenzy. You focus too much on Clark, and suddenly Kelsey Mitchell's dropping buckets on you. Or Aaliyah Boston's dominating the paint. So what's the answer? How do you stop a player like Clark who can beat you in so many ways? Well, here's the thing. Maybe you don't. Maybe the key isn't stopping Clark at all. Maybe it's about slowing down everyone else. Think about it. If you can disrupt the Fever's timing, if you can throw off their rhythm just a little bit, maybe that's enough. You're not trying to shut down Clark completely. Let's be real. That's probably impossible. But if you can make life just a little bit harder for her teammates, maybe that's the secret sauce. But get this, Clark's effect on the game isn't just about what happens on the court. The real story, it's in the stands and on the screen. The WNBA's seeing numbers it hasn't seen in years, and Clark's got a lot to do with it. So what's really going on here? You won't believe the impact Clark's having on the WNBA. We're talking record-breaking stuff. The league just reported its highest attendance in 26 years during the first month of the 2024 season. That's not just good, that's insane. And it's not just butts in seat. Viewership is skyrocketing across all networks. But here's where it gets really interesting. The WNBA isn't just growing, it's reaching whole new audiences. Viewership among people of color jumped by 60% compared to last year. Hispanic fans up 96%. Black fans a 67% increase. That's not just growth, that's a whole new ballgame. So what's behind this explosion? Stephanie White, the Suns coach, spilled the tea. She said, "The influx of talent and star power from the college level, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, all of these players have engaged with these fans from a social media perspective. It's like these rookies brought their whole college fan base with them to the pros. But it's not just about star power." White pointed out something interesting. Remember when the pandemic hit and everyone was stuck at home? Turns out that was a blessing in disguise for the WNBA. People discovered the league while channel surfing, and they liked what they saw. Now, with players like Clark taking the court, those new fans are sticking around. You know what's crazy? Clark isn't just changing how people watch the game, she's changing how it's played. White talked about how Clark and her fellow rookies are making the league more competitive. It's not just about one superstar dominating anymore. These new players are raising the bar for everyone. And it's not just about what happens during the game. Clark and her fellow rookies are killing it on social media. They're connecting with fans in a whole new way. Imagine seeing your favorite player's highlight reel on TikTok, then watching them do the same move in a real game. That's the kind of engagement that's getting people excited about the WNBA. But here's the real kicker. Clark isn't just a great player. She's become a symbol of where the WNBA is headed. When fans see Clark sink a three from way downtown or make a no-look pass, they're not just seeing one player. They're seeing the future of women's basketball. And let me tell you, that future looks bright. All right, let's talk about the showdown that's got everyone talking. The Fever, once the league's punching bag, are now throwing haymakers. And Stephanie White, she's sweating bullets. Why? Because Caitlin Clark isn't just good, she's changing the game. This best-of-3 series isn't just another playoff matchup. It's a battle for the WNBA's soul. The Sun want to prove they're still top dogs. The Fever, they're hungry to show they belong. White knows she can't just outscore Clark and company, she's got to lock them down defensively. But how do you stop a team that's firing on all cylinders? Here's the million-dollar question. Is Clark's playoff debut the start of a new WNBA era? Or can White and the Sun write their own chapter in history? The answer might just change women's basketball forever.